Picture this. You're floating on the surface of the ocean. The water is warm, the sun is bright, and you can see colorful fish swimming below. Now imagine descending. 200 meters down, the light fades. 1,000 meters down, it's completely black. 4,000 meters down, the pressure could crush a car. And at 11,000 meters, you've reached a place more alien than the surface of Mars. The ocean covers 71% of our planet, yet we've explored less than 5% of it. We know more about the moon's surface than what's happening in the deepest parts of our own seas. And the deeper you go, the weirder, more terrifying, and more alien the creatures become. Today, we're taking a journey from the bright, familiar surface all the way down to the darkest trenches on Earth, exploring 7 distinct zones where evolution has created monsters that shouldn't be possible. Each zone has its own rules, its own terrors, and creatures so bizarre they'll make you question everything you thought you knew about life. This is your descent into the abyss. Let's begin. Zone 7, the Sunlight Zone. We start at the surface, in the Sunlight Zone, also called the Epipelagic Zone. This is the ocean you know, bright, warm, and teeming with life. Sunlight penetrates the water, fueling photosynthesis. Plankton blooms feed small fish, which feed larger fish, which feed sharks, dolphins, and whales. This zone contains 90% of all marine life. Coral reefs burst with color. Sea turtles glide through clear water. Everything here feels familiar, safe, almost inviting. But here's the thing. This represents only a tiny fraction of the ocean. The Sunlight Zone is just the first 200 meters. Below that, the rules change entirely. Even in this relatively shallow zone, there are hints of what's coming. Great white sharks patrol these waters, capable of detecting a single drop of blood from miles away. Portuguese man-o'-war drift on the surface with tentacles stretching 100 feet below, delivering venomous stings that can kill. The Sunlight Zone is a paradise, but it's also a reminder. The ocean is not our domain. We're visitors here, and the deeper we go, the less welcome we become. Zone 6, the Twilight Zone. Drop below 200 meters and you enter the Twilight Zone, also called the Mesopelagic Zone. This is where things start getting weird. Sunlight still penetrates here, but barely. It's too weak for photosynthesis, meaning no plants can grow. The lush underwater forests disappear. Food becomes scarce, and in the absence of abundant resources, evolution gets creative. Many creatures here are transparent. The glass squid has a body like crystal, its internal organs barely visible. The glass octopus is almost completely invisible except for its eyes, which stare out like disembodied orbs floating in the blue. Why transparency? Scientists believe it's camouflage. In the faint light of the Twilight Zone, having no color makes you invisible to predators and prey alike. But other creatures take the opposite approach. They create their own light. Bioluminescence becomes the dominant survival strategy. Firefly squids glow like underwater Christmas lights. Lanternfish produce belly lights to match the faint shimmer from above, a trick called counter-illumination that erases their silhouette when viewed from below. Some creatures use light to hunt, others use it to attract mates, and some use it to vanish entirely. The Twilight Zone is also home to one of Earth's greatest natural phenomena, the Deal vertical migration. Every single night, billions of creatures, lanternfish, squid, jellies, crustaceans, rise from the deep to feed on plankton under cover of darkness. At dawn, they descend back into the gloom. This migration is the largest synchronized movement of life on Earth, greater than all herds, flocks, and swarms combined. And we didn't even know it existed until World War II, when naval sonar operators detected a mysterious false seabed that rose and sank every day. It wasn't the ocean floor, it was life itself, moving as one. The Twilight Zone is where the familiar rules of biology begin to bend, where transparency is armor, where light is used to hide, where billions of animals rise and fall in a rhythm older than humanity, and we're only 1,000 meters down. Zone 5, the Midnight Zone. Welcome to the Midnight Zone, the Bathypelagic Zone, a realm of eternal night. No sunlight has ever reached this deep. The temperature hovers just above freezing. The pressure is 100 times greater than at the surface. This should be a dead zone, a barren wasteland where nothing survives, but evolution laughs it should. The creatures here have adapted to darkness in ways that seem impossible. The dragonfish produces red bioluminescence, a wavelength most deep-sea creatures can't see. It's like having a private flashlight that illuminates prey without giving away your position. The dragonfish's eyes are specially adapted to detect this hidden color, giving it a secret advantage no other predator has. Other fish go the opposite route, ultra-black skin. These creatures have evolved skin so efficient at absorbing light that it reflects less than 0.5% of what touches it. Even when a submarine spotlight shines directly on them, they almost disappear, swallowing light like a black hole. And then there's the anglerfish, perhaps the strangest hunter in the ocean. The female dangles a bioluminescent lure in front of her massive mouth, drawing in curious prey, but her reproduction method is even more disturbing. Male anglerfish are born tiny and helpless. Their only purpose is to find a female in the vast, dark ocean, a nearly impossible task. When a male finally locates a female, he latches onto her body with specialized jaws and fuses permanently into her flesh. His organs wither away. His eyes disappear. He becomes nothing more than a parasitic sac of sperm, nourished by her bloodstream, existing solely to fertilize her eggs. It's one of the most extreme forms of sexual parasitism in the animal kingdom. The Midnight Zone is also where whale carcasses become oases. A single dead whale sinking to this depth can feed entire communities for decades. Hagfish, sharks, and amphipods swarm the body. Then stranger creatures arrive. Bone-eating worms called osedacs colonize the skeleton, feeding on oils locked inside the bones. Nothing is wasted. A whale fall is a jackpot in a desert of darkness. The Midnight Zone is where survival becomes horror, where light is a weapon, where reproduction defies comprehension, where death from above becomes life for months, and we're still not at the bottom. Before we descend into our final 3 zones, where things get truly nightmarish, if you're fascinated by the alien worlds hiding beneath our oceans and want to explore more terrifying mysteries of the deep, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The next 3 zones contain creatures so bizarre, so extreme that scientists still can't fully explain how they survive. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's lurking at the very bottom. Zone 4. The Abyssal Zone. At 4,000 meters, we leave the open water column and touch the bottom of the abyss. Welcome to the Abyssal Zone, one of the largest habitats on Earth, covering more than half the planet's surface. This is a desert of mud stretching thousands of kilometers in every direction. No landmarks, no coral reefs, no kelp forests, just endless, flat sediment. The temperature never rises above 4 degrees Celsius. Food is almost non-existent. And yet, life persists. One survival strategy dominates here: gigantism. Many creatures of the abyss are enormous compared to their shallow water relatives. Giant isopods, normally tiny crustaceans, grow as large as puppies. Amphipods, usually microscopic, can grow longer than a human hand. The colossal squid, among the largest invertebrates alive, prowls these depths. Scientists call this phenomenon deep-sea gigantism, but they still don't fully understand why it happens. Some theories suggest it conserves energy in a food-scarce environment. Others think larger bodies provide better defense against sparse predators. The truth? We don't know. The vampire squid lives here too, and despite its terrifying name, it's not a predator at all. It's a scavenger, collecting drifting particles of marine snow with long, sticky filaments. Even in oxygen-starved depths, it thrives using a blood pigment with the highest oxygen affinity of any known cephalopod. Life in the Abyssal Zone is slow. Creatures grow slowly, reproduce rarely, and live for centuries. The Greenland shark, which can dwell at these depths, may live over 400 years, the longest lifespan of any vertebrate known to science. Time itself moves differently here. The abyssal plains cover more territory than all forests, grasslands, and deserts combined, yet they remain largely unseen, unexplored, and unexplained. We've mapped the surface of Mars in more detail than we've mapped the abyssal seafloor. Beneath this endless plain lies an even deeper frontier. Zone 3, the Hadal Zone. Below 6,000 meters, we enter the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld. This is where tectonic plates collide, creating trenches, scars in the Earth's crust that plunge deeper than mountains rise high. The Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, descends nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. If you dropped Mount Everest into it, the peak would still be over a mile underwater. Conditions here are beyond comprehension. The pressure exceeds 1,000 times what we experience at the surface. It would crush a human body instantly, compressing bones, collapsing lungs, turning flesh to pulp in seconds. And yet, life thrives. The snailfish inhabits the very bottom of trenches, the deepest living vertebrate ever discovered. It looks impossibly fragile, gelatinous, translucent, with thin skin and no rigid bones. But its cells are reinforced with unique molecules that keep proteins functioning under crushing pressure. Amphipods swarm across the trench floor in huge numbers. Recent studies found plastic fibers inside their bodies, proof that even the most remote habitats on Earth are touched by human pollution. At hydrothermal vents along trench walls, life takes an even stranger turn. Here, microbes feed not on sunlight or marine snow, but on chemicals spewing from Earth's crust, hydrogen sulfide, methane, dissolved metals from superheated water. Entire communities of tube worms, clams, and crabs depend on these chemical-eating microbes. This is chemosynthesis, not photosynthesis. Life powered by Earth's internal heat, not the sun. The existence of these ecosystems raises a profound question. If life can exist in such extreme conditions on Earth, could it not also exist on other worlds? Icy moons like Europa and Enceladus hide oceans beneath frozen crusts, warmed by internal heat, not sunlight. To study the Hadal Zone is to glimpse the possibilities of extraterrestrial life. Fewer people have visited the Mariana Trench than have stood on the moon. Each dive brings back creatures unknown to science. Translucent sea cucumbers drifting like parachutes, gelatinous blobs with no clear anatomy, microbes whose metabolisms remain mysteries. The Hadal Zone is hell, but it's a hell teeming with life. Zone 2. The ultra-abyssal Hadal Trenches. Within the Hadal Zone itself, there are even deeper pockets, ultra-abyssal trenches, where the rules of physics seem to break down entirely. At these depths, water itself behaves differently. The extreme pressure affects molecular structures. Some scientists theorize there may be a depth limit where cellular life can no longer function, where the pressure is so great that proteins denature no matter what adaptations exist. We haven't found that limit yet. Creatures here are often discovered only once, then never seen again. Single specimens hauled up in deep-sea trawls, so bizarre that scientists struggle to classify them. Gelatinous masses with no clear features. Worm-like organisms with unknown feeding methods. Things that might be animals, or might be something else entirely. This is the frontier of biological knowledge. Every dive reveals that life is more adaptable, more resilient, and more alien than we ever imagined. Zone 1. The Challenger Deep, the deepest point on Earth. And finally, we reach Zone 1, the Challenger Deep, the lowest point in the Mariana Trench, 10,994 meters below the surface. Only 4 people have ever been here. More astronauts have walked on the moon. The pressure here is 1,086 times atmospheric pressure at sea level. A single square inch of surface experiences 16,000 pounds of force. In 2019, explorer Victor Vescovo descended to the Challenger Deep and found life. Amphipods, sea cucumbers, previously unknown species of snailfish, and a plastic bag. Even at the deepest point on Earth, humanity's waste has arrived. But here's what haunts researchers. We spent less than 4 hours at the Challenger Deep. 4 hours exploring an area the size of a city. Who knows what else lives down there? In the darkness we didn't explore. Strange shapes on sonar. Unexplained sounds. Brief glimpses of movement too fast to identify. The Challenger Deep has barely been touched by human eyes. Some scientists believe there could be ecosystems down there we've never imagined. Creatures that exist nowhere else on Earth. Perhaps even microbial life forms so fundamentally different from surface life that they represent a second genesis, life that evolved independently in the crushing darkness. We don't know. And that's the terrifying beauty of it. 7 zones, 7 worlds stacked on top of each other. From the bright familiar surface to the crushing darkness of the Challenger Deep, each zone has its own laws, its own terrors, its own impossible creatures. The Sunlight Zone reminded us that the ocean is not our home. The Twilight Zone showed us that light can be a weapon. The Midnight Zone proved that darkness breeds horror. The Abyssal Zone revealed that life can thrive in deserts. The Hadal Zone taught us that hell is alive. The ultra-abyssal trenches demonstrated that we've barely scratched the surface. And the Challenger Deep whispered that the deepest mysteries remain unsolved. We've explored less than 5% of Earth's oceans. That means 95% remains unknown, unexplored, unmapped, filled with creatures we've never seen, ecosystems we don't understand, and perhaps even forms of life we can't yet imagine. The ocean is not empty, it's not dead, it's not barren, it's the largest biome on Earth, and we're only just beginning to understand it. So the next time you look at the ocean, remember, you're not seeing water, you're seeing the roof of an alien world. A world that extends down, down, down into darkness, so complete, pressure so intense, and cold so absolute that it might as well be another planet. Except it's not another planet. It's Earth, our home, and we share it with monsters. Sleep well tonight, and maybe stay out of the water.